In the past 10 years, it has become very popular in the name of anti-racism, teach a kind of philosophy to our children in general that says your race is everything.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that is the wrong way to fight racism, and that's why I wrote this book at this time.
This is the solution, is to just say, are you a kind person? Are we going to get along? Are you nice? Are you respectful?
If I'm being honest with you, believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right, and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
And I've read your book twice because I wanted to give it a chance.
Did you, girl?
Argument that race has no place in that equation is really fundamentally flawed.
Ooh.
Well,
ooh, y'all didn't warn me that there's going to be tea here. Where's my, I should get some tea. Conversations constantly about race and skin color. And by the way, the lights went off because I have a timer. It wasn't God telling me to be quiet or Martin Luther King. Gilbert, don't say this. I don't want you to get canceled. Hi everybody, your buddy Gilbert here with a very special video. Real quick, if you are new here, please take a moment to head over to that subscribe button and smash the bajangles out of it and ring the bell so that you can get notified the next time I drop another exciting video just like this one. Okay, I have been wanting to do a video like this for a very long time because it's going to be covering something that I've had thoughts and feelings about. Coleman Hughes was on The View recently. He has this book called The End of Race Politics. A friend of mine actually told me that I should look up this book. We were having conversations about race and identity politics, see my color versus colorblind. I know the culture is like, you can't talk about this stuff, Gilbert. You cannot speak for every marginalized skin color out there. But I can just talk about my objective opinion, what I've witnessed in my 42 years of living on this planet, what's worked, what hasn't worked. There's so many friends I have that work in inclusive spaces, but we don't always agree on everything. In fact, I pretty much stand alone. I actually tend to be quite unique in this belief that I have that being colorblind is the way to combat racism. And people get kind of upset with me. They're like, Gilbert, no, you have to see someone's color. Here's the thing. Of course you're going to see someone's skin color, right? Like, it's not like I'm really colorblind and I can't see the amount of melanin in somebody's skin. Of course I can. Of course I'm going to want to celebrate their culture and their heritage and learn about their customs. Of course. But when I say colorblind, it's not in that context. What it means is that your skin color or your ethnicity, that is going to have nothing to do with how I treat you, how I interact with you. We talk about implicit bias. If I have any implicit bias, I don't need to feed into that by scoping you out and looking you up and down. Oh, this is a brown person, so let me just now think about all of the stereotypes and implicit bias I have about brown people and project it onto them or feel pity for them. Oh, they must be oppressed. They must belong to this political subscription because they're brown or because they're black or because they're Asian or because they're Jewish or because they're white. I'm doing so much prejudging before we've even had an interaction, and that is literally racism. And the fact that I'm quite unique in this sometimes worries me. I feel like we're in a world right now where the culture is saying, see my color and colorblind is bad. One of the things that usually happens when somebody rejects a colorblind perspective is that they often instead become blinded by color, leaving them unable to really see the individual standing right before them. It's no wonder. I'm sure aliens are watching us and they're just like, well, this planet is crazy. Didn't they have a leader called Martin Luther King during the civil rights movement who said that he had a dream that one day his children would not be judged by the color of their skin, but would instead be judged by the content of their character?
I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
They're supposed to be progressive, taking those amazing views and moving forward with them to improve and make this world better. But instead, they've countered that and they've actually done the opposite of what Martin Luther King Jr. was advocating for.
I want you to see my color. Right. I want you to recognize that I am black, that I am different from you in that respect.
It almost seems like after the civil rights movement, it was kind of starting to go into equality, but now the tensions are almost as high as it was during that time.
I think that white people are committed to being villains. It's not that white people don't know what they have done.
They know. They're so corrupt. Their thinking is so morally and spiritually bankrupt. And isn't it sad that that is spiritually who they are? The thing I want to say to you is we got to take these motherfuckers out.
If y'all didn't know, this is the MSC, and frankly, there's just too many white people in here, and this is a space for people of color.
As a white person, I don't want to say that I should be allowed anywhere, and I think it should be up to those organizations to decide.
As like a white person, we have more areas where you can feel comfortable, and if they don't feel comfortable in those other areas, that it's nice for them to have a space where they do feel comfortable.
And when there's white students that are in there doing something that could be perceived as disrespectful, you have to understand that that could be hurtful.
White people need to be aware of the fact that it's not a space for them.
White people need to be aware of the spaces that they occupy on grounds, and that we need to all be aware of, I don't know, the way that we occupy spaces around everything. And I think that she had a good point, and she wasn't aggressive. She was very clear and concise with what she said, and she had a good point.
Frankly, there's just too many white people in here.
This message is to all the white people who have BLM in their bio. If you really want to prove to black people that you love us and you care about us and you are down for the cause, do not go see that movie opening weekend. You buy your ticket, you give it to a black person or a black family who can't afford to go, and then you go sit at that theater in front of the doors. That is your job. You can go see it on another weekend. Go see it on the second or third weekend. But the first weekend, that's for us.
Boo hoo hoo. You white people are angry because you couldn't use your white privilege card to get invited to the Black Lives Matters All Black Memorial Day celebration.
So just be really cognizant of the space that you're taking up, because it does make some of us POCs uncomfortable when we see too many white people in here.
So do you think that white people should be allowed in the MSC?
I can't speak for racial minorities specifically since I don't identify.
This university is full of history that's basically oppressing people of color. It's very hard for people to have a space where they feel like safe, and the MSC is a place where we feel safe.
Conversations constantly about race and skin color. It's on the borderline of just almost feeling hopeless. So I'm really excited to maybe get canceled with y'all today. And by the way, the lights went off because I have a timer. It wasn't God telling me to be quiet or Martin Luther King. Gilbert, don't say this. I mean, you're advocating for what I was talking about, but I don't want you to get canceled. I'm sure more of my thoughts will come out as this video prompts them out of me. Haven't seen this yet. Like I said, I'm really excited because I have not seen Coleman Hughes. I know nothing about him. Part of me was like, well, maybe I should read the book before I do this, but nah, y'all, I need to get this video out. You know, it's Holy Week and I don't have the time. So we're just going to get right into it. This will be my introduction into who he is. And I have a strong suspicion that I'm going to really enjoy him. I'm doing something a little bit differently. I'm going to be holding the phone so that I can pause it easily if I need to, because I'm sure I'm going to have a lot to say. Here we go.
The first question that I should ask you to do is explain to folks what you mean by this. Arguments for a colorblind America. What do you...
Hold on, I just have to say real quick. The title itself to me, Coleman Hughes on his definition of color blindness when it comes to race. I don't know what he's going to say, but as far as, I mean, I just kind of explained at least what I think it means a couple of minutes ago. I'm going to be curious to see how different it is. Maybe, I don't know, or maybe I'm not going to agree with him in this book. Part of me feels like he wrote the book before I could get to it, but we're going to go ahead and listen to him. I want to hear how he defines it.
I mean, when you say that.
So a lot of people equate color blindness to I don't see race or to pretending not to see race.
I love you.
I think that's a big mistake.
Thank you.
We all see race. Right?
Yes.
And we're all capable of being racially biased, so we should all be self-aware to that possibility. My argument is not for that. My argument is that we should try our very best to treat people without regard to race, both in our personal lives and our public policy.
Of course.
And the reason I wrote this book...
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay. Getting some... Okay. So far, so good. Okay, the audience is with him. I heard it, of course. So I'm like, then what's the problem? This is... All is seemingly right in the world right now so far.
The reason I wrote this book is because in the past 10 years, it has become very popular to, in the name of anti-racism, teach a kind of philosophy to our children and in general that says your race is everything.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that is the wrong way to fight racism, and that's why I wrote this book at this time.
I think that that's very important to say, and I'm glad that he said that. We put so much of our identity in our skin color that sometimes that's all we are. We're black, we're white, we're Mexican, we're Asian, we're whatever we are. And No, we're not. We're more than that. We're multiple things. We're not just our orientation. We're not just our skin color. We're not just our gender. We're not just our religion. We're not just our occupations. We're all of these things. There's so many things that consist of what makes us us. And I think that this overemphasis on skin color and race is part of the problem. And so we need to do away with that system. Honestly, in most contexts, your race, your skin color is completely irrelevant. I know you want to be proud of it all the time and wear it and flaunt it in people's face, but all that does is it feeds it as an issue, right? Like if you feed something, it grows. You're making it something that's important. And God forbid you be somebody that somebody doesn't like. Well, now you've told them first, see my color. And now you've just created an implicit bias in them because they could have just saw you as an individual that really got on their nerves. But now that you're saying, no, see my color. I'm a brown man. I'm a black man. I'm a white man. I have white privilege, or I'm black and I have ancestors who were slaves and second-class citizens. Like, you're carrying all of this weight from generations that you didn't even live through, and you're applying it onto your current self. No wonder we can't get past this. No wonder we're like a dog chasing our tail over and over again. So I'm really excited to see that so far the audience is with him on this, but clearly this is probably going to take a turn.
I'm sorry, baby. Yeah. Can I just point out that there is a reason for that? You know, when I went to school, getting any information about anyone's race was not taught. No history, there was no black history, none of those things were taught. And here in America, 100 years ago when I was a younger woman, that's how people saw you. That's how they judged you. So,
right, and that's the problem. Right, Whoopi? That's how they saw you. That's how they judged you. So what he's offering, and it's, why is this like he is offering this brand new solution? This has been the solution the whole time. Our culture has just rebelled against it. But this is the solution, is to just say, yeah, I don't really care what your skin color is. Are you a kind person? Are we going to get along? Are you nice? Are you respectful? Are you a dreamer? Are you, what are your passions? What are your hobbies? Like, who else are you other than just the things that have nothing to do with you? Your skin color, you didn't choose. You didn't choose the amount of melanin in your skin. Like, but you being a dreamer, that's unique. Well, what are your dreams? What are your hopes? What makes you you apart from things that you didn't choose?
I think, I don't want to say it's your youth, but I think you have a...
Ooh, that's shade. That's shade. She's shaming him for his age. He doesn't look like a child. Clearly he's young, but he's not so much younger that you need to say something patronizing to him. I didn't like that. Wait, hold on. Whoopi, isn't Morgan Freeman like 18 years older than you? He has very similar, if not the same views that Coleman Hughes has on race relationships and colorblind. How would you feel if Morgan Freeman told you, you know what, Whoopi, you're so young, you're 18 years younger, you haven't lived as much, it's your age. I'm sure you'd have feelings about that. You need to be very careful that you don't just dismiss somebody because of the amount of time that they've had on this earth. Sometimes younger people get it more quickly and more thoroughly than older people. Wisdom and age are not always synonyms. Some people have been on this planet forever and they're still pretty dumb.
You have a point, but I think you have to also take into consideration what people have lived through.
But, Whoopi, most of the generation today that is pushing this ideology did not live through that. Forgive me, but a lot of the youth today are exploiting histories that they never lived through and using that to be angry about a life that was never theirs. And they're carrying that. They're living in the past. They're living today, currently, with a chip on their shoulder from the past. They're exploiting the past from their ancestors. And that's a problem. And it almost seems like Whoopi's actually advocating for that. So I feel like we're already now starting to go backwards or backpedaling on the progress of where this conversation hopefully should go.
In order to understand why there has been such a pointing of very specific racial things, like women couldn't go to get into colleges. If you are a black person, there are a lot of colleges wouldn't accept you. Trying to equal the playing field, I think.
Okay, right. That was wrong, right? So we're past that. So why are you bringing that up right now? So your argument then, Whoopi, is because that was the past, that's the way it should always be. We need to always focus on those things going forward and make decisions about them going forward. That is the root of this issue, and that's why it's wrong, Whoopi, and that's why we need to get out of that frame of thinking and not justify it by saying, well, there's a reason for that. Well, yeah, that reason was terrible. That's why we're having this conversation today. We need to stop thinking like that. You can absolutely equalize the playing field without propagating the same ideology. In fact, that's how you equalize the playing field.
That's what a lot of folks have been trying to do. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I think that's your experience, and that's valid. You know, as a counterpoint, when I was in 5th grade, we all watched Roots together.
Yeah.
In public school.
Yeah.
So these are different experiences. I think it's also different generations. It's different parts of the country, right? We have very different cultures all living together in one country. So I'm not going to deny that, but I view this notion of a colorblind society similar to the idea of a peaceful society, which is to say it's an ideal, it's a North Star. And the point is not that we're ever going to get there. We're not going to touch it.
Controversial. I mean, maybe. I try to be hopeful. But something that I was talking to one of my friends who I really love and admire, but we don't see eye to eye completely on this. He was like, well, don't you think that you should kind of acknowledge in your views how the culture is? And I said, well, to a certain extent, like, you know, that's how you navigate policy, but you don't create your ideology that way. Right? Like, as they say, you have to like fake it till you make it. Kind of like how he said, you have this North Star. This is where we're going. And when I talk like this, the way that I am now in this video, if you've gotten this far, people say, Gilbert, you're tone deaf. Like, you're talking about a society. We're not there. It's like, right, we're not there because these ideas are not being, I don't want to say they're not being loud enough, but the other voices that are counter to this problem being solved are the louder ones. So someone's voice, I would say, like what I'm saying right now, someone like Coleman Hughes, someone like Morgan Freeman.
How are we going to get rid of racism?
Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man. And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman. You want to say, well, I know this white guy named Mike Wallace. You know what I'm saying?
Those voices need to be louder and people need to hear what they're saying, consider what they're saying, because that's how you create change. And it will come across tone deaf because it is counter this culture. And I get that, but maybe that's the point. It is the point. We're trying not to play by these rules. These rules are the problem. So this is the North Star. This is the aim. This is where we're trying to go. And let's have that conversation because that would solve this.
But we have to know when we're going forward and when we're going backwards. And we're going backwards when we're doing woke kindergarten in San Francisco.
Yes.
You know, you didn't hear about this story?
No, but wait.
He used the word woke. That's going to get them. I'm sure that ruffled their feathers.
Part of the book. You believe that public policies that address socioeconomic differences would be better at benefiting disadvantaged groups, and that race-based policies often hurt the very people they're trying to help.
Exactly.
What are some examples of policies that would be better at reducing racial disparities?
So my overall argument is that class, socioeconomics, is a better proxy for disadvantage.
Real quick, when she talks about, a lot of people will say racial disparities in prisons, certain minorities are not performing well academically, right? Just because there's a racial disparity does not mean that it's because of their skin color, their melanin. There's a lot of cultural things going on inside the homes in communities of color. There is a lot of internalized racism within communities of color. Now, I know you're going to say you cannot talk about black families or the black home or the black community, Gilbert, because you're not black. Okay, so I'll talk about Latin communities, right? Because I'm Hispanic. A lot of people in the Latin community are shamed when they do well in school, when they are articulate, and when they are working hard and wanting to better themselves, and they speak out against things like toxic parenting and child abuse. It's like, who do you think you are? Are you trying to be white? And there's a shame over those of us that are Latino that grew up in homes where we were told, if you speak a certain way, you sound like you're trying to be white. If you think that you're beyond or above a gangbanger cholo hood life, then you're trying to be white. You're not cool. You're not hood. You're not real. You think you're all that. And this is a cultural thing that happens in the homes. In the comments, tell me if you are within another community of color where that's something that you've heard before, where if you work hard in school, if you show up to time in your job, you take your obligations seriously, you're educated, that you get shamed within your community and in your culture for trying to be white. Please tell me that in the comments, because don't be afraid. And if you don't see them in the comments, it's because people are probably afraid. But I'm going to say it. I'm going to talk about it because that's a huge part of the problem. And I do believe that that is a huge incentive for young people to not want to go to school and to drop out of school and get pregnant early, live on their parents' couch, ride around with a floppy binder in their back pocket on a tricycle all around the hood all day, late into their 40s and 50s, doing drugs and getting involved in criminal activity and joining gangs because of this cultural thing that if they were to apply themselves and succeed, they'd be shamed for being a sellout because that's not how our community is supposed to act. You're trying to be white. That's a problem.
Want to help the disadvantaged, and the question is, how do we identify them, right? The default right now in a lot of areas of policy is to use, Black and Hispanic identity as a proxy for disadvantage. And my argument is that you actually get a better picture of who needs help by looking at socioeconomics and income. That picks out people in a more accurate way.
I love him. He is killing this.
And not my question, but when you say that socioeconomics picks out people in a better way than race, when you do look at the socioeconomics, you see the huge disparity between white households and Black households.
Right. And again, Sonny, what he's trying to say is that there are multiple factors for that. It's not just skin color or some kind of systemic oppression. There are other things in play. I just talked about culture.
You see the huge disparity between white households and Hispanic households. So your argument, and I've read your book twice because I wanted to give it a chance.
Did you, girl?
Argument that race has no place in that equation is really fundamentally flawed, in my opinion.
Well, there's two separate questions.
Y'all didn't warn me that there's going to be tea here. Where's my... I should get some tea. No, because I don't want to pull this off. It's a whole big old thing. And then if I get up in a certain angle, you'll see my jelly roll. But I can't wait to see what he's going to say to this.
One is whether each racial group is socioeconomically the same. That I agree with you. They're not.
They're not. And the stats show that.
But of course, I agree with that fully. The question is, how do you address that in the way that actually targets poverty the best?
Great.
And what Martin Luther King wrote in his book, Why We Can't Wait, is he called it, we need a Bill of Rights for the disadvantaged. And he said, yes, we should address racial inequality. Yes, we should address the legacy of slavery. But the way to do that is on the basis of class. And that will disproportionately target Blacks and Hispanics because they're disproportionately poor, but it will be doing so in a way that also helps the white poor, in a way that addresses poverty as the thing to be addressed.
Again, I'm not trying to make this an anti-Sonny video, but the fact that he even just acknowledged the existence of white poor white people is going to really upset Sonny, because that really flies in the face of Sonny's narrative. A lot of people on the hyper left, you cannot talk about poor white people. I even hate using that term, right? Because they're going to be like, well, they may be economically stricken, but they still have more privilege on the account of their white, right? They go into that whole thing. There's no way that they can Show receipts for that. That's a concept. That's a political view. That's a talking point. There's no center to go and cash in your white skin and have it scanned and your level of whiteness get you a paycheck. That's ridiculous. So I'm excited to see how he's going to respond to this, and I hope that he gets her good.
This part is true, but as you are a student of Dr. King, I'm not only a student of Dr. King, I know his daughter, Bernice. Right?
You can tell by her face that she thought this was a huge flex. So then you are, I'll be nice, you are on the opposite side of everything he stood for without excuse. You, Sonny, to even brag about that and try to flex about that, you do realize that it actually makes it worse that you spew out the rhetoric that you do, because everything that you express when it comes to race relations on The View, and I watch a lot of The View, is in direct opposition to what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was working for in his life.
So I'm going to get to my question.
Go ahead, go right ahead.
I think the premise is fundamentally flawed. You claim that color blindness was the goal of the civil rights movement, based upon Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, content of character versus...
Sorry, I just have to get so excited right now. And just so that y'all know that what I'm saying is true and legit, check when this was uploaded on The View's channel. Check when I released my video, why See My Color is problematic, why being colorblind is the way to go. That way you know that I'm not just lying to kick it and trying to like ride this guy's way into the future. These have been my views. Ask anyone who's known me for the last 30, 40 years.
The color of skin. Bernice, Dr. King's daughter, points out that 4 years after giving that speech, actually, Dr. King also said this: a society that has done something special against the Negro for hundreds of years must now do something special for Negroes. He also said in 1968, it was about less than a week before he was assassinated, this country never stops to realize that they owe a people kept in slavery for 244 years. So rather than class, he did write about that earlier on. Right before his death, he made the argument for racial equality and racial reparations.
I knew she was going to say that, her favorite
word.
Your
argument for color blindness, I think, is something that the right has co-opted. And so many in the black community...
No, this is not this is not a right-wing talking point, Sonny. This is a common sense talking point. Look at the picture, look at the problem, analyze the problem, dissect it, find out what's causing it. Judging people on the color of their skin is racism. Doing that creates implicit bias, prejudices, and conflict in interaction. So, how do you get rid of that? You get rid of it. You teach that you shouldn't be doing that. Don't judge somebody by the color of their skin. Done. Well, Gilbert, that's oversimplifying it. No, 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 no. That is the solution. You've overcomplicated it by adding all of this fine print, trying to redefine it. I mean, that's what the left is actually trying to do now, is they're trying to change the definition of racism. It used to just be discrimination based off of race, implying superiority.
Kennedy Mitchum is 22 years old. She just graduated from college. Late last month, Ms. Mitchum emailed the editors at Merriam-Webster. She asked them to update their definition of racism to, quote, represent the true meaning of what racism is.
They need to include that there's a systematic oppression.
Kennedy Mitchum got a response from the editors the next day. We have concluded that omitting any mention of the systemic aspects of racism does a disservice to readers of all races. A revision to the entry for racism is now being drafted to be added to the dictionary soon, and we are also planning to revise the entries of other words that are related to racism or have racial connotations. The editors went on to say that without Kennedy Mitchum's persistence, these revisions would not have been made.
We have lived experiences. You can't just go to the dictionary and, oh, you're going to understand racism. So I really hope that after they look at the new definition that they can really at least try to understand instead of, trying to be ignorant.
But now they want to add institutionalized powers and governmental, all this other stuff.
Black people can never be racist whatsoever in any capacity.
And somebody needs to say, this is ridiculous. I'm so glad that Coleman Hughes is speaking up. And Sunny is being very patronizing. I don't like her tone with him at all.
If I'm being honest with you, because I want to be, believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right, and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
So how do you...
He's never voted for a Republican.
Wow. Okay. This is beyond honest, Sunny. That was rude. That was an attack. You're attacking his motive. You are now projecting onto him an agenda. He's talking about a fundamental worldview lens. This is a problem. This is a solution within its own definition to cure the problem. And you, Sunny, because you can't help but make everything racial and political, are projecting anybody that doesn't agree with you must be on the hyper right. That is intellectually dishonest. It is manipulative, presumptuous, and is rude. He is your guest. At least give him the benefit of the doubt. Wait for him to say something, bring up a political leader's name that he endorses that's on the right, for you to then say, well, see, that to me sounds like that's where you're coming from. But you just came out of clear blue sky with this stuff. That is absolutely unacceptable.
You said that you're a conservative.
No,
No, you did. You actually said that in the podcast that you did 2 weeks ago.
I said I was a conservative.
He's not. Yes, you did. So,
wow. Now you're going to lie. Absolutely disgusting. And, okay, I don't know who said that. Who was it, Alyssa or Sarah? So I don't think I know Joy's voice. Somebody said, no, he's not. And thank God for that.
You've said that you're a conservative.
No,
he's not.
Yes,
he's not.
Yes, you did. So
that's hard to do, is to correct. This is their home, right? Like after they yell cut, you know something's going to be like, why'd you call me out? I'm trying to get him. So whoever said that, no, he's not. Kudos to you for keeping this honest and for, preserving the integrity of how you should be operating with your guest that Sunny's not doing. That's absolutely vile and disgusting, Sunny, that you would do that you would blatantly lie about him because it's more convenient and it fits your narrative. Shame on you for that.
My question to you is, how do you respond to those critics?
Like you?
Let's give him answer.
First thing I want to...
Thank you. Oh my God. I'm really enjoying the fact that the other ladies are kind of coming to his defense a little bit here. Like, girl, let him answer. Like, you're coming at him a little bit crazy. And it's one thing to be interested in this, but you're attacking him. You're lying about him. You're projecting things onto him. Even if they're a guest, you don't get to do that to them.
I think it's very important. The quote that you just pointed out about doing something special for the Negro. That's from the book Why We Can't Wait that I just mentioned.
Yes.
A couple paragraphs later, he lays out exactly what that something special was.
Yes.
And it was the Bill of Rights for the Disadvantaged, a broad class-based
Can I do a backflip? Imagine me doing a backflip right now. The fact that he is being calm and giving her receipts with, hot coals, as the Bible says, kill them with kindness. It's when you're kind to people that are mistreating you, it's like putting hot coals over their head. That's what he's doing. Let her say what she says, completely wrong about him and completely manipulative and twisting, right, what Martin Luther King Jr. meant. Let it just be out there like a fart, like a bad stink in the air. That's what he's doing. He's explaining himself as opposed to debating her. He's being very generous and very graceful with her.
He also says you must include race.
No, he didn't. He says it's
Yes, he does.
Okay, well, everyone should go read the book Why We Can't Wait.
Yes! I love him. He's like, no, go read the... I love this. Because she knows this is going to be on the top of my list, sir. I'm going to read this book because I already know I'm going to fall in love with you. You are the man, Coleman Hughes. Oh, my Atlanta, Georgia. He's being so graceful.
Not get sidetracked by that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been co-opted by anyone. I've only voted twice, both for Democrats. Although I'm an independent, I would vote for a Republican.
Okay, he is slaying this interview. He's dropping facts. He's being kind. He is being assertive, but he's not being aggressive. there really is objectively no reason for hostility towards him. It's really just his views expose the stench of hypocrisy that's coming out of somebody that has the views that Sunny Hostin has. And it's uncomfortable for her, right? It's like it's bringing her to the fire, and she doesn't want that. So instead of her saying, wow, yeah, I've got this kind of wrong, and this is classic, I'm not calling her a narcissist, but this is narcissistic behavior. When they don't want to deal with what they've got going on, but your presence, your existence is like a mirror to them and like a hot grill to them, they have to make you the bad guy because they don't want to look at themselves. So they have to do whatever they can to vilify you. And that's what she's doing. She's trying to discredit him. She's trying to shame him. She's trying to make him look stupid. And it's not working because she has nothing on him.
Probably a non-Trump Republican if they were compelling. I don't think there's any evidence I've been co-opted by anyone, and I think that that's an ad hominem tactic people use to not address really the important conversations we're having here.
Yes! Oh. Finish him. Remember that Mortal Kombat game? He just completely annihilated her there. And I love it because he didn't target it to her because that would be a confrontational thing to say. It's actually what you're doing here, and he wouldn't be wrong, is that you are just doing that to detract from where we're having this conversation. Instead, he said, this is what people, like he took her out of the hot seat, which was very graceful, but he still made his point, which was brilliant.
And I think it's better, and it would be better for everyone if we stuck to the topics rather than make it about me with no evidence.
I want to give you the opportunity to respond to the criticism.
I appreciate it. There's no evidence that I've been co-opted by anyone. I have an independent podcast.
Who has said, okay, what's the criticism? You said you want to give him an opportunity to respond to the criticism. Who said, other than you, Sunny, that he has been co-opted by the right? Who said that? Don't worry, I'll wait. You're the critic. So you are asking him to respond to you because you're attacking him.
I work for CNN as an analyst. I write for the Free Press. I'm independent in all of these endeavors, and no one is paying me to say what I'm saying. I'm saying it because I feel it.
Yeah. Alyssa, you have the question.
Coleman, thanks for being here. So in the past decade, it feels like racial tensions have gotten worse. Do you see it that way, and what do you attribute it to?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at all the data, it finds that race relations were getting better until about 2013. That year, you had majority of Black, Hispanic, and white Americans saying race relations were good, and then you just see it nosedive. And 2013, you know, people like to blame, Republicans like to blame Obama. Wasn't his fault. Democrats like to blame Trump. It was actually just technology. We all got social media and smartphones, and we had videos being promoted in the algorithm that were unrepresentative, and it created this impression that racism was on the rise when in fact it had been on the decline for decades.
I want to know if he's going to bring up the Black Lives Matter movement, because that could be, that's the elephant in the room, right?
And it allowed everybody. Do you attribute that at all to foreign actors getting involved in technology?
Yes, Russia tries to meddle, absolutely, but I don't think we can blame foreign actors. This is a homegrown problem.
Okay, I have a question, because you write that the anti-racism movement.
I wonder if he is trying to stay away from huge objectable things, because if he did say the Black Lives Matter movement, the narrative that was all false, that it took us a while to figure that out, but during the time, a lot of people believed it, and there are still some people that believe it. I know it's lost most of its traction, especially after the news broke that one of the co-founders, the leaders, purchased a $6 million mansion for what they said was business related, not residential, only to later then change her story and say that, yeah, she had thrown a couple of personal parties there, including one for her own child.
In 2020, following the death of George Floyd, the foundation took in over $90 million in donations. Verify asked the foundation if donations were used to purchase the house, but did not get a response, so we can verify, yes. Black Lives Matter's national nonprofit purchased a multi-million-dollar house in Los Angeles in 2020.
Breonna Taylor's name was used all over the Black Lives Matter movement. They never donated a dime to that family. Breonna Taylor's mother spoke out against BLM. No one listened to her. And even when people actually looked up statistically how non-existent it was, Black men being hunted down and killed by white police officers. That was absolutely a fabrication.
The goal is to tell black people that we're victims, that discrimination and racism remain major problems in America when in fact they don't. Blacks are convinced that the #1 issue facing the country right now is social justice, racist white cops, discrimination, systemic racism, microaggression, whatever new word they come up with, and it's a bunch of nonsense.
But you wouldn't not acknowledge that there are some systemic issues.
Give me an example. Tell me what you think the most systemic racist issue is. What is it?
That cops are more willing to shoot if the perpetrator is black than white.
What's your basis for saying that? 965 people were shot by cops last year and killed. 4% of them were white cops shooting unarmed blacks. In Chicago in 2011, 21 people were shot and killed by cops. In 2015, there were 7. In Chicago, which is a third black, a third white, and a third Hispanic, 70% of the homicides are black on black. About 40 per month, almost 500 per year last year in Chicago, and 75% of them are unsolved. Where is the Black Lives Matter on that? The idea that a racist white cop shooting unarmed black people is a peril to black people is BS. It's complete and total BS. Half the homicides in this country are committed by and against black people. Last year, there were 14,000 homicides, not talking about suicides, I'm talking about homicides. Half of them were black, 96% of them black on black of that 7,000. Where's the Black Lives Matter people on that? Where's the evidence of a lack of social justice? When a black suspect is killed by a cop, believe me, the media is on it, people are watching it, and justice will, for the most part, occur. In Baltimore, where Freddie Gray died in a van, you have a city that's 45% black. City council is 100% Democrat. The majority of city council is black. The top cop at the time was black. The #2 cop was black. The majority of the command staff is black. The mayor is black. The AG is black. And yet here we are talking about racism. I mean, it's absurd. Yeah. It's absurd.
There are a couple of people, I don't even know who they are. Maybe you know
Robin DiAngelo.
Robin DiAngelo, Ibram Kendi, for instance.
Okay. Well, you say that is just another form of racism, and you even say it has a lot in common with white supremacy.
Absolutely. White Fragility is the worst book that was ever written, ever. I mean, I think it's like worse than the Satanic Bible, honestly, White Fragility.
How can you compare those two things? You're talking about anti-racism, you're comparing it to white supremacy.
It's not anti-racism, it is racism. The fundamental belief of Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility is that you are racist simply because you're white. And the evidence of that is that you don't think you're racist. That's the circular argument that goes on in that book.
I'm going to speak to white people right now. Consider removing the claim, I'm not racist, from your vocabulary. It's functionally meaningless. It's not convincing to anyone who understands systemic racism. It just tells you that this person has no idea and likely will not be open. Even though I think I'm telling you that I'm not racist, I'm really putting up a wall that says you're probably not going to be able to give me feedback or challenge me or help me see.
Who's drinking this Kool-Aid? And there are so many people that I've known and loved and respect that were hailing this book like it was the new Bible. And they all bought into that woke ideology. They got brainwashed, literally got brainwashed. That's what's going on. He's being nice. He's not telling the truth that so much of our society has been brainwashed. We've all bought into this mentality because we want something to fight for. We want to feel virtuous. We want to feel like we're on the right side of history. So when things start getting a little too good and there's really not so much to fight for because women have their rights to vote now, and black people are no longer second-class citizens. Interracial marriage is legal. Same-sex marriage is legal. All of this work to make sure that people cannot be discriminated against at the workplace because of their race and their gender and their orientations. It's like, what do we do? What's left to fight for? Now we get to start making stuff up, essentially. I know that I'm going to get canceled if I say this, but if Black lives really matter, then focus on the #1 things that end Black lives. There are several things that are at the top of the list, astronomically higher at taking the lives of Black individuals on a daily basis, light years away from anything that has to do with police brutality. But no one wants to have that conversation because that's politically incorrect.
Because they both view your race as a extremely significant part of who you are. So white supremacists, they obviously say, we all know what they say, okay? Neo-racists like Robin DiAngelo, they say that to be white is to be ignorant, for example. This is a racial stereotype, and I want to call a spade and say this is not the style of anti-racism we have to be teaching our kids. We should be teaching them that your race is not a significant feature of who you are. Who you are is your character, your value, and your skin color doesn't say anything about that.
Oh my gosh! You know, it's so interesting to me because essentially this was the book that I have already kind of started writing. Honestly, spoiler alert, even though I haven't read it, but what he's saying is in it. So thank God for Coleman Hughes, for somebody that can articulate common sense in a way where the world is ready and waiting for someone like him to speak up and say common sense, because we're all asleep. It's called woke, but we're really all asleep. We've all taken the pill, I guess it's the blue pill, to all just believe this crap, this victim crap. And it's crap. It's not real. And we're walking around trying to be these social justice warriors, and we're fighting a ghost, honestly, a ghost that was created by the media, essentially. It's sad that someone like him, who is using common sense, is seen as so radical, and even the adversary to someone like Sunny Hostin. That's scary. It shows just how far down this rabbit hole we have all gone, and it's not a good rabbit hole.
That's actually misrepresenting what Robin DiAngelo's position is.
No, it's not.
Her book.
It's in the book. Thank you. Okay, why is Sunny Hostin still on The View? She's lying left and right. Literally. She's projecting lies onto Coleman himself, and then when he calls out Robin DiAngelo, she lies to say, oh, that's not in the book. It's Robin DiAngelo wouldn't even argue that. That is her argument. Sunny, what are you doing?
So here we go. Here we go. Thank you, Coleman Hughes, for coming, because this is a show of lots of different opinions, and we are multi-generational, and we all got an opinion. Yeah. So, The End of Race Politics, Arguments for a Colorblind America is out now, and we're giving it to you all so you can read it and judge for yourself how you feel about what he said.
Wow.
Would you mind
I'm glad that they did that. They're actually giving people some of the cure to wake people up. Well, I can talk about this at great length, and I don't want this video to be 1,000,000 hours long. If you enjoyed my take on this video, please subscribe. I am diving deeper into these issues because there needs to be more voices of common sense that are speaking against this culture that we've all been lied and duped into in believing this nonsense that being colorblind is a bad thing. And again, it doesn't mean you don't see people's color. It means you are proactively making the choice to not allow someone's skin color have anything to do with how you're going to treat them. Let's just say you are Asian and I have a bad interaction with you because I've listened to you, the culture, saying, see their color, see their color. Well, now the next time I interact with an Asian person, I'm going to connect that prior interaction I had with the Asian person that I didn't like onto the next person and be like, oh, see, they're Asian, just like that last person. What do you want? Now I've carried all that because you told me to. You told me to see people's color. No, see them as individuals. Their color has nothing to do with how you should engage with them. Yes, I'm getting riled up because this is something that I'm so passionate about, and it's a major problem in our culture today. Please smash that subscribe button, smash the like button, drop me a comment. What are your thoughts? What are your views? If you do disagree with me, please stay respectful, but also leave a comment. I mean, the whole point of doing a channel like this or having these conversations is to engage and to discuss ideas. And definitely, if there's something that you think that I'm overlooking, if you have something different than what Sunny said that I've already responded to, that you think I've missed, I'm definitely willing to hear it. Of course I am. But I will see you in the next video. Till then, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for sticking around with me. I'll see you later. Bye.